So picture yourself going up that roller coaster. You're headed up to the peak of the roller coaster and you know exactly what's going to happen. You've been on this ride before. You're headed to the top. You're going to come down. There might be a few loop-de-loops somewhere in there, and then you're going to have that feeling of finally we've hit that bottom, and you know you've been through all the difficult stuff. Our real estate market right now is definitely a roller coaster, but where do you think we actually are on the roller coaster is somewhere that's very important. I think personally, we're somewhere in those loop-de-loops. We are not really sure where we are. We haven't hit the bottom, that's for sure. We've definitely come down from the peak, but I do think there's a lot more that's yet to come in the real estate market here in the GTA, and that's why we're going over the numbers here. We've got the July numbers in. This is going to be for Toronto and local GTA. I'll break down every area that we're going to cover. We're going to talk about why we think the numbers haven't come down so fast. A lot of people in the comment section keep saying they're not coming down fast enough, and it's because sellers are holding on quite strongly to their properties, especially the ones that aren't forced to sell. The ones that are forced to sell, maybe they financially can't hold on to that property anymore. They're stuck. They got to move the property or the bank's going to take possession of it, and it's just a situation that sucks for a lot of people. But those who don't have to sell or who aren't forced to actually sell at a significant loss, those are the people who are really keeping the market strong and stable right now. So let's see if we can get any more information from the data we're looking at here on how things have gone so far the last couple months and where we are at year to date. We're going to start off with the nasty category to start. Toronto condos. We're going to do it. We're going to hit Toronto condos first off here, and then we will go to the other areas, check out their condos, and then we'll come back and circle with the rest. So Toronto condos last month, median price on 925 transactions was $590,000, down $15K from last month, slight 2.5% decrease. Still sucks to lose that much money month over month if you are selling your condo, of course. Now, if we're comparing year over year, year to date last year, we were looking at a median price of $650, so we're down $40,000 overall in the course of the year here. $610 is where the median price sits, and that's with a $590 this past month. So obviously summer months tend to be a little bit more slow. That's why we're seeing this 590 come through in the July numbers. Now, transactions, we already know we're down on all of these. 17% transaction decrease. We have an inventory increase here of only 2.9%. So I think condo sellers have really just decided, I'm not going to throw my condo on if I don't have to. I'm competing with 24,000 condos right now that are resale. That's a lot to deal with, and I don't blame you if you just decide to hold on to it for a little bit of time. Now, when it comes to terminations, I think we are actually going to see less terminations on the condo side of things, because you're seeing it here. It's only 16% termination. I think that's because condo sellers are just like, you know, this is the price, this is what I can afford to sell it for, and we're not seeing the same kind of price reductions. We are, however, seeing some people negotiate on these list prices to get a pretty good deal still. Now, Toronto, that's the condo situation there. I want to break it down a little bit finer for you in Toronto. Now, one bedrooms in Toronto, you can see here that median price does drop down significantly, almost 100,000 or more than rather, to 484 for the past month. Last month was 490. This is on 184 transactions for one bedroom condos. So it's a pretty reasonable sample size. Last year, at the same point in time, we were at 545. So if you bought a one bedroom condo, you've lost about $40,000 just on the median sale price of that condo. Transaction wise, 27% less transactions are happening. And then inventory and new listing wise, very much on par. So that's going to give you a real idea of what your one bedroom Toronto condo might be worth. 484 over the month of July, 500-ish over the course of the year so far. Now, two bedroom condos, obviously it's going to be a higher price here. You're going to notice that 605 is where the median was last month, and there was pretty good chunk, 531 transactions that were two bedrooms and condos in Toronto. This year so far, 3,600 transactions have actually taken place for two bedrooms. Median price is coming through at 622. So of course, just like one bedrooms, July numbers were slightly lower than that median overall year-to-date number that we have so far. Let's take a peek. The other areas that people tend to be very curious about on this channel or in general is definitely not Perth, but it is going to be the Peel region. And Peel region, of course, is going to encompass a few different areas. And you know what? We'll break those down a little bit more finely. So we'll start with the Brampton area just because, and if you want a full Brampton update, we have that already. We also have a Mississauga update done, but Brampton, quickly here, your overall situation for all bedrooms in Brampton, that median price for the condos is $466, year to date $479, and 166 transactions to date. It's 22% decrease here. Just to compare one bedrooms to the one bedroom situation in Toronto, as you can see here, $413,000. So a pretty good discount, about $70,000 less if you want a one bedroom condo in Brampton. Only 26 transactions year to date, 30 last year. So there's not a lot of condo movement in Brampton, but the two bedrooms here, we'll take a peek and see the difference here. The median price on those is $465. So if you want a two bedroom, you can get it for less than the price of a one bedroom in Toronto if you are going to go to Brampton. 87 transactions compared to 113 last year, 23% reduction. Now let's kind of look at Mississauga. There's a lot of condos in Mississauga, so let's see where we are at over the last month here. And 520 is that median condo price. You have 873 transactions compared to 1,133 last year. And overall, year to date, you're going to pay $540 for the median priced condo. More importantly, we're going to break it down like we did for the other ones here. Remembering Brampton is $414, Toronto $484, and now Mississauga median price $453. So also a very good price when you're comparing the other two to Toronto. Transaction wise, 105 compared to the 153. So pretty big reduction, less than 30% less now. Transactions are one bedroom condos for the year, which is a big drop off. And listing volume, it's also 30% increase. So we have a 60% swing here on one bedrooms, which is not great for Mississauga, as I'm losing my voice here. So we also have two bedrooms in Mississauga coming through at reasonable we'll say, over the one bedroom price for Toronto, but still under the two bedroom prices, of course, at $535 for the year. Comparing the last couple months here, they've been pretty much on par. 520, 522, 535 year to date on almost 500 transactions. So not a small sample size here. Last year, we almost had 600 transactions at the same point. And of course, inventory, 25% more inventory is hitting the markets, two bedroom style or two bedroom wise. So now that we've done the condo side of things in those three areas, what I want to do is get a little bit more granular, look at some of the other areas. So we're going to take a peek at what detached homes are selling for, because they are the most transacted upon with the condos. These are the two markets that are most transacted right now, condo and detached, because first time home buyers trying to get into the market, they can only buy a condo. Anybody wants a detached, any of the owners from condo, townhouse, semi-detached, those guys are all, trying to snatch up a piece of detached property. So these are the two areas we're going to cover in this update today. So Brampton, if you're looking at all types of detached homes, median price year to date is $1,058,000. We're 6.8% less than last year, which was 1,135. But this past month, median was just under $1 million at $999. Transaction wise, we're down almost 20%. In terms of the actual listings, we're up 20%. So we keep seeing these big swings, 20 and 20% on the increase, and the decrease in transaction adds a lot of stress on the real estate market right now. Now, we're gonna keep that number in mind. So Brampton, call it $1,060,000 for a detached home. Now let's take a peek what median price for Mississauga detached home is. And as you can see here, it's 1.334 for the median price Mississauga detached home. This past month, being summer, was a little bit less at 1.27 or 297. So, $35,000 less. Transactions, we're going to follow suit with Brampton, 16% reduction. Inventory is also increased 16%. So not a 40% swing, but 34% swing here. Still a pretty big swing that we're seeing. Now let's compare these to how affordable, and we use affordable because it's still $1 million. How affordable is Toronto in comparison? So Toronto, 1,350. So 1.350 is what, up to this point in the year, your detached home median price is looking like in Toronto. 4,300 transactions, and in Toronto you're going to have small bungalows, massive mansions, so the median price gets rid of these outliers and really gives us a more tangible number to work with. Down 2.9% year over year on price, so not a massive reduction. So if you are a detached homeowner, your home's holding value well. Don't forget, you still have all the expenses, you have property tax, you have everything else that comes along with home ownership. So you're not making money, but you're not losing it hand over fist, at least yet. When it comes to the new listings, we have seen a 19% increase in detached homes. And then sales-wise, we have seen a 5.6% decrease in sales. But because detached homes are one of the more desirable home types in today's market, it's only a 5.6% reduction in actual transactions that are happening. Now for the detached, let's look at a few different areas to give you some more perspective, right? So we've done Brampton, Mississauga, and Toronto. Let's take a look at Wellington. And just to remind you guys of what Wellington is, because you may not know, Wellington is that Erin, Guelph, Push Lynch kind of area, right? So you're going to head down the 401, maybe get off at 6. That's going to be the area we're going to be looking at right now. And you're going to notice the prices do come down. Median detached home price is now $875. Sounds a lot more affordable when we've already looked at 3 other categories where the median price is north of $1 million. Transaction wise, even though $875 is the median price, only 1,041 transactions compared to 1,600 last year. So that's a 65% reduction. You're going to see the same patterns here. 21% increase in the actual new listings volume as well. Or sorry, in this case, it's a 21% decrease in new listings volume. So what's happening is when we're looking at a further out area like this, we'll test it with some of the other areas because we want to make sure our thesis makes sense here. But people are moving out of the city less frequently than they have been for a little while here. So you're not seeing these sales happen as quickly. You're not seeing as many sellers try to sell and capitalize on the Toronto buyer leaving the city anymore. That's what I think is happening. And we're going to try to back up that thesis by looking at a place like Simcoe. Now, Simcoe, for all you guys who don't know, is the Barrie, Collingwood, Essa, Innisfil, New Tecumseh kind of area, right? It covers a wide range. It goes all the way to Wasaga. So you're going to have a lot more areas that are kind of combined in here. But your average detached home price or median does go down again to $805 because you have so many more areas that are in there. Year to date, last year was $820. So prices haven't come down a ton, 1.8%. Very, very, very small number. When it comes to transaction volume, we've still seen a dip off of 20% in transaction volume. And we have actually seen almost on par with the amount of listings that have come on compared to last year. And if you wanted to buy something out this way this past month, you would have been able to get a median detached home for around $790. So really, really attainable for somebody who already owns a townhouse and maybe wants to move up into a more sizable home for their family. It's really rare that somebody's buying a detached home and it's 2 people. You really are looking for a family or maybe parents or multi-generational home is what they would call it. Parents living on one level, kids living on one level, and then kind of enjoying the home together. We do see that quite a bit these days. Now, a couple other areas I do want to take a peek at. York, because York is very much within the GTA, and that's going to be your King, your Markham, your Newmarket, your Richmond Hill, your Vaughan, very popular. And what you're going to see here is holy yeah, 1,435 is the median detached home price. Keep in mind, you're including King City, you're including Vaughan, a lot of areas in Richmond Hill where there's very, very expensive, we'll just say, detached homes, as you can see here. Prices have fallen 6.8%. So they've come down from the 1,540, which is what we were looking at last year. And transactions, they've dropped off 17%, 3,200 compared to almost 4,000. And then the amount of new listings. So we're seeing more listings coming on in these areas. My guess is because people cannot afford these detached homes anymore. If there's that many more listings than there was last year, I think people are really getting pinched. And once we start to see that number rise, I think that's going to be the really big sign for us month over month. If we see 18 turn into 20, turn into 25%, if that number continues to rise, that should be setting off something in our head saying, hey, we're getting closer to somewhere along this roller coaster that's past some of these loops and getting close to that bottom. Now, one thing I do want to pinpoint on that category is, look at this, 5,000, almost 5,100 terminations thus far this year, 40% increase year over year. Sellers cannot figure it out. Either can the agents. A lot of confusion trying to figure out what's the home worth, and you'll see a termination and we relist the home at a different price because the buyers aren't necessarily willing to pay what the original list price is. Now, is there any other areas that we should be covering? Durham is the last one we're going to look at here. It will be more affordable than that area, and we're looking at detached homes around 942, last year 977, so 3% reduction in that median price. Transactions are down, not horribly compared to some of the other areas, but 3176 compared to 3673 last year, 13%. When we're talking new listings volume, getting close to that 20 at 16% once again, and same pattern, 40% terminations. It's just like, what do we list them at? I don't know. Try to pinpoint what you think somebody will pay in this given market. A lot of the sellers that are trying to sell, they can't necessarily get what they paid for their home. So you either sell your home for what it's worth today, or you hold out for some imaginary price, which is not going to get you to the finish line, which is getting your keys into a buyer's hand and your home sold. Big issue is pricing your house properly in today's market. We've got videos on that on the channel on how to actually sell your home properly. A big chunk of it comes down to making sure your pricing strategy is correct and not just putting it on the market for what you want as the seller and an agent just listening to you. And there's actually some agents who are deciding not to work with specific sellers because of just that. That video is actually a newer one that you can watch on the channel here as well. So we've seen kind of what the overall market here is doing in these areas. And of course, this is detached homes and condos that we've taken a peek at. If you want one of the other categories, or if you're curious about it, we can cover that in a second video for you. But what I wanted to cover these two areas for is because these are where the transactions are coming from. We did a video last month that really broke down where the transactions were coming from, and almost 70% of the transactions are first-time home buyers in that condo category, and then detached homes across the board. So who's buying detached? It is the people who already own a property, who have some equity, and they want to turn it into a bigger property for their family. Who's buying the condos? It's definitely not investors. Do not buy a condo as an investment right now. That is the biggest advice you can take, is stop thinking about condos as a good investment. But who's buying those? It's first-time home buyers. That's really who's buying those properties. Condos, first-time home buyers, somebody who just wants to get into the real estate market. That's who's buying those, and those are actually moving still. But there's a lot of condo inventory for us to swallow up, years of it, if I believe I'm correct. Now, I hope this video provided you some insight. If you want kind of a path on how to buy your first home, you can always watch this video right here. Or if you already have your home on the market, or you're thinking of doing that and you want a path on, hey, like, how do I do it properly and not end up like some of the people we're talking about in this video, where the home is not necessarily selling, this video could give you some tips on how to do that properly. If you have any questions, you can always scan the barcode in the bottom here, or text me at this number on that same banner, and we can connect and see if there's any way I can help you in today's real estate market. If not, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.